Welcome to the Real Pundits podcast. I'm Brandon.
And this is Alex.
And, today we're going to be talking about, it's somebody's birthday today.
Yes.
We'll save it till we get to it.
Oh, man, come on.
We are celebrating a birthday.
Oh, wish we had like the noisemakers and stuff like that. Start making a whole bunch of noise for it.
Before we get into birthdays and the movie I promised to review, which is It, we are going to talk about the new stuff we have going on.
Okay.
We actually are now set up on Podbean.
Yep, we're
all
fully...
of our archive is there.
It's a little out of order, but it's all there. Just check to make sure which episode you want to listen to. Everything is actually titled, so you should be perfectly fine to find it.
You can also find us. We are no longer on SoundCloud. We used to be exclusive to SoundCloud and iTunes. Now we are on Podbean.
Yes,
we are on iTunes. We are also on YouTube, finally.
Yep, we're moving all the podcasts. As soon as we release them, they're also going to be on YouTube. So no matter which direction you want to listen to us, we're going to try to make sure you can find us. And as of the start of November, you'll also find us on Google Play.
Nice. So we're going to have a lot more options for people to listen. Not everybody's got an iPhone. Not everybody has Spotify. Not everybody has SoundCloud. Spotify is one of the goals for us.
Yeah, we'll be switching that over probably later on into next year.
And then, speaking of going into next year, we're going to be doing a new YouTube channel. Yes, our podcasts are on YouTube, but it's not filmed for YouTube. It's audio only currently. But what you will find on YouTube here coming at the beginning of next year, probably sometime in February, is we're going to be starting a reaction channel where you're going to have the Real Pundits Reacts. And we're going to be doing trailer talk. Instead of where you're used to with us doing trailer talk in the beginning of our episodes, we're going to be reacting to trailers real time. We're never going to have seen the newer trailers before, but we're also going to be doing, because it's us, going back and watching some classic trailers of some films that have been far, far past released.
Yeah.
As far back as I can find a trailer, we're going to react to it. And that's going to be a little fun channel we're going to do for you guys. Let you guys, put some faces to the voice, get used to us. Maybe you'll get to know us a little more by how we view films and our reactions to them.
That's a good way of putting it.
And then
after that,
our plan...
Well, it's not even a plan. This is definitely going to happen. The next thing up, we're going to be doing some reviews of some films that, well, first off, they don't have color.
Yes.
We're going to black and white movies. It'll be part of our premium content. And right now, we're looking for the first one that we're going to start off with. We're going to put it out there, see if anybody has any interest, or throw the line out, see if anybody bites at it. But our first black and white movie for the Real Pundits Classic. And we're going to jump into that, and that'll be some of our premium content that you can find through Podbean. So if you're interested in checking out old films and actually hearing the reel that goes off whenever we get started to talk, that is the thing that we're going to be doing, and that also is coming through as of next year. And
one more thing coming next year, as this is a lot going on at the beginning of next year, we're going to be live streaming these podcasts, so you'll be able to watch us live on Facebook or YouTube. But on that note, I do kind of want to get into the It review.
You ready for it?
I'm ready for the
It
review.
Now, I want to sit there and preface this before you get into it, because we all know what's getting ready to happen. You've already kind of hinted that you don't like It.
No, I don't.
And here's where we run into our normal situation. To me, it wasn't that bad. And I'm still looking forward to part 2, because I want to see how they're going to solve this version of it. But I wanted to give everybody the warning ahead of time. There's going to be some pew-pewing going on. There's going to be some tears. I wouldn't call them nerd tears. You're just straight up.
Look,
go at it, man. Go ahead. Jump at it.
I already had low expectations before I saw this film.
Why?
Usually when there's a CGI-heavy trailer of a remake, it's never that good. Now, I was very conflicted with this movie because the actors did a very good job.
All the way across.
I'm not going to crap on their ability. They did a very good job, and I am a fan of horror, and this is your definition of a horror movie. A lot of suspense build up, but then you get into the whole terrible CGI Pennywise, and I'm
thought
sorry.
They did a really good job on adapting it compared to what we had with Tim Curry era. This was leaps and bounds as far as the way the clown looked. Some of the things that they did with him jumping out of the slideshow, I thought was it. they did a really good job of modernizing that movie, because beforehand it was more of like a casual watch of, hey, this is horror, and it wasn't.
And that's actually my problem. And I'm going to use
Okay.
a different film briefly to kind of
Okay.
understand where my expectations were.
I'll let you go, man. Go ahead.
When I saw the first Evil Dead, it was a very tongue-in-cheek film.
Oh, yeah. It's
The
a comedy.
remake was a very serious remake with
Oh, yeah.
actual what you expect from a high-budget Sam Raimi film. If you're going to remake tongue-in-cheek films, that's the standard you need to go off of. I wanted real horror feeling. I wanted to be stuck in terror the whole film, because if you read the book before you watch any of the crap films, your mind's eye, the movie in your head, that will show you that you'll get the feeling of suspense. You'll get tense. You get the goosebumps because you're reading this horror story.
Right.
But I did not get that at all.
Okay.
There was only one scene in the entire film that felt terrifying.
Which one for you?
The bathroom scene with Beverly.
Oh.
That was it.
What? Because we went for the whole, was it Dead Alive, 14 billion gallons of blood everywhere?
The build-up to that.
Oh, the build-up was good.
The build-up was suspenseful. You had actual terror going on in this film, and the original. And I'm not going to sit there for the first time ever on the Real Pundits. I'm not going to sit there and say, "Well, this is why you shouldn't touch it." That's a movie that should have been remade. That was a very tongue-in-cheek film.
It was made for TV at the time,
Right.
So there was like only but so
It's
far
like
they
you're
could go.
telling me that they're going to make Langoliers again. That was a TV-made movie. I'd
Yeah.
love to see it done in the big screen if done right. And this is one of those things that if you wanted to do it for the big screen, give it an R rating and make it suspenseful, you could have easily done this. This is a movie that was open for that. Made-for-TV movies are the only films that should be remade, because you can only do so much on broadcast, especially in the 90s,
Right.
versus what you can do now.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want any clowning around, no pun intended.
Oh, that was 100% pun needed.
This is all I've got from this film. Yes, there were some really good taglines. They all float. You'll float too. I mean,
I guess for me it was the actors did a good job. Now, if you break it down into our normal categories of actual film, editing,
terrible.
I thought the editing was very smooth for
I'm
what
sorry,
it was. The editing went out perfectly.
Any of the CGI,
There was a couple of times. It wasn't
the CGI was not seamless.
That's the CGI. I'm talking about how the movie was
in editing, man.
But the actual film editing, I thought was done well.
Okay, cut scenes going from scene to scene, sure.
Coming from scene to scene and how they developed the story, I thought was it worked. I also thought that even though we may not agree on this whole situation, you can't fault the director. The director did a good job, especially dealing with young children. Not young children, but young people. In this movie, they portrayed the characters well. They portrayed their fear, and it had a pinch of horror on a like Goonies type of feel to it.
There you go. You just said it.
What's wrong with that,
The Goonies, right? Phenomenal tongue-in-cheek film.
100%.
I got the most Goonies feeling I could get when I watched Stranger Things.
Now that's a totally
far better.
That is done better, but you're also talking about the difference of sitting down in a theater and being able to expand upon your story versus going on Netflix and being able to span your story 8, 10, 12 episodes and give you enough background.
Maybe that's where they should have went with this. It Part 1 should have been season 1 of an It series. That way you could have...
I think I would 100% agree with you, and I think that's where...
Because there were times this story felt incredibly rushed. There were other times, and you see... But I'm not
look how big of a book that you had to go through and chop down.
That's not my fault. Look at Lord
No,
of
it's
the
not.
Rings.
It's not even... And even that, if you go from book to movies, there are still some things that hardcore novelists, Tolkien fans are like, yo, they messed this up. Where did this battle isn't even real, but we're sidetracking. My whole thing is to interpret that book and that as when it came on TV to 2 hours, I honestly think they did a well enough job that it warrants at least making the part 2. So I'm
not going to crap on the whole thing.
All right, go ahead.
At the very beginning, I had high hopes. At the very start of the whole Georgie scene, that was phenomenal.
Oh gosh!
Watching the next scene with the older brother looking for Georgie and the father going like, stop, that's enough.
Yeah,
that was a good scene. Up until really when they started confronting Pennywise, the movie was good. It took the turn when they started confronting Pennywise, and it's nothing against the Skarsgård guy. He's not a terrible actor.
No.
My issue was the CGI. It really did take away from it. And then sometimes the kids did not react appropriately. They kind of overacted, which is fine. They're kids. They're going to make mistakes. Unfortunately, I'm cynical, and I'm looking at things through the point of view that I do. All in all, I'm giving it a 2 out of 5 at most, maybe a 1.5 out of 5.
Wow, I'm going with a solid 2.5 as far as mine.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Well, hey, the difference between the two is 0.5.
It was Green Lantern level bad CGI.
Oh, come on. It wasn't that bad.
It was that bad.
The Green Lantern.
Go back and rewatch it with critic eyes on, not fan eyes.
No, I watched it with critic eyes. It wasn't that bad compared to Green Lantern. But that's another point. Here's the ending for me. It made its money. It definitely made its money. And I'm not going to count this movie fully until you give me part 2. It has to be seamless from one to the next one. And I think that's where we're going to run into, was this executed well or not?
I will see part 2 just so I can watch it finished and not go, well, I didn't see it. But at this point, I'm not impressed.
Well, that means we're on to our next topic.
It's a birthday.
It's a birthday. And that's going to be the fun part about where we go to next.
Happy birthday.
50th anniversary.
Well, 50th birthday, 50th anniversary, however you want to say it. 50 years ago in 1968, George A. Romero, to be completely professional.
I've never heard of this guy before.
How have you never heard of this guy? For those of you that haven't heard of this guy, he wrote and directed a movie that is 50 years old.
And is still relevant today.
Still relevant. It changed the landscape of modern horror. Yes, this sticks with this month's theme. And luckily, it was the perfect movie for me to positively review. This is the 50th anniversary of Night of the Living Dead, the movie that changed so much for horror.
Happy birthday.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
But either way, this movie, how iconic is it? I mean, in all honesty, we're still dealing with the ramifications of that movie to this day with Walking Dead. Everything is based off of getting to this.
First film you ever saw somebody actually eat.
Yeah,
human. It was the goriest film of the day.
And for me, it was a different reason why I'm obsessed with this movie.
Go ahead.
You're gonna let me have
I'm
this?
I'm gonna let you have it.
Thank you. Black Hero.
There you go.
I mean, he ran the show in this whole thing, and during a time period in which you didn't see that much. The ending, we're just gonna leave it as, for that time period, social awareness of that time period. He died in a different way than everybody else did.
It is amazing to watch George Romero breaking that rule. I mean, you got to think this was basically a mixed race couple in a time where that wasn't allowed.
Right. And he was holding her and consoling her and trying to get more information of what's really going on. And he took charge of the people that were there. But it was done, but it doesn't get the attention that I think it needs to be done.
No, because everybody's focused on the zombies, which were phenomenal.
But if we're talking about George A. Romero, the movie, was it really about just the zombies?
Never is. So a fun theme, and we're not going to get into the rest of them. A fun theme in all of George Romero's films is there's a lot of social commentary.
Huge.
One of the big social commentaries of Night of the Living Dead, besides his statement of the mixed race couple as your male and female hero and heroine, which I don't think I count Barbara as a heroine. She was more just a helpless victim the entire film.
She was a damsel. Well, let's just call it what it was. She was
a damsel in distress being a white woman and your hero being a black man. But there was a lot more social commentary. As more people entered the home and as they were protecting more people, you saw a lot more people really not like the dynamic in the house.
Right.
There were people really, and there was nothing outright said, no outright racism, but you saw that tension of white family being ordered around by a black man. There was...
It changed some things, but there was also the social commentary of when you have something like this, no matter what your environment is, you're fighting zombies, but there's always that subconscious thing that in your mind of you still have to deal with the people. It's not just the zombies you have to deal with. It's what's going on in your world at that exact moment. And that trailer's on straight up to today when you see a Fear of the Walking Dead, 28 days, 28 weeks. I wish they would make a 28 months, but
actually I'm really good without that.
Is this one of those movies we're going to disagree on?
No.
Is it a series that you just, what do you, I almost want to ask you, since we're on the topic.
It's been too long.
It's been too long?
It's been too long. You're not gonna. That time was 10 years ago. 28 weeks later came out. What? 2006.
I have to look that one. I have to check the date.
No, that was 28 days later. 28 weeks later. I don't remember exactly when that came out. It doesn't matter because it's not on topic tonight.
It's not on topic, but it's sort of on topic. We're still talking zombies. These are things that were touched by George Romero and have continued on till now.
Cool thing about this movie, it was made on a very low budget. For as good as it was, only $114,000. Now in theaters, it being the time it was, it didn't make very much.
No.
It grossed $89,000 in theaters, so it didn't even make its money, but it became a cult classic. It's the movie that you live up to.
But watching it with your critic eyes, what did you see?
I saw boundaries pushed.
Okay.
And see, it's hard for me to put on my critic eyes because this is a classic. There are some situations where I go, man, I'd have done that differently. Like the very first zombie you see. Kind of getting into a fist fight with a zombie that later on is trying to eat you. That's a little weird to me.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's such a simple story. 7 strangers who board themselves up in a farmhouse.
Yeah.
And there's hordes of zombies out there trying to get in. And this, I think that Barbara was the worst character in the whole film.
Oh yeah,
there are times where I'd have taken her out back and just thrown her to the damn zombies. It's just because it's one of those things where she was just irritating.
And her acting was a little
over the top.
Yeah, and so I mean that's what I said. Looking at it with your critic eyes, even though it's a classic, it is one of my favorites. The slow start to this movie, especially nowadays, you know what to expect. You're expecting, well, it's a zombie movie, and you get a very slow burn as far as a story. Editing for its time period, I'll give it a pass. There was some bad editing, some bad sound.
1968, you didn't have a whole lot.
Editing wasn't the top thing that everybody was thinking about. But when it happened, when the zombies were introduced, you also had to deal again back with what I love about this movie and what Romero does is the human aspect of it.
This was 96-minute long film.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring this up is because this goes back into what we were talking about with Adam on the last episode about horror films just not doing it the way they did. This is 96 minutes of tension. This is slow
burn tension.
We saw one gory scene where somebody was eating somebody, and
the ye old chicken scene. Yeah,
but it was a hand or an arm or something
like that.
But there was one gory scene in this whole film. The rest of it was just the suspenseful buildup. Are the zombies going to get in? Are these people going to survive without killing each other?
Are they going to work together?
Are they? Because
you have the basement people versus the upstairs, and so that became again back to what you see in some of his other movies, the social commentary of the people, because the zombies are just a catalyst. Like the entire movie really isn't about. And
that's the same thing with all the Of the Dead films. The zombies are always the catalyst. The zombies are just the thing going on in the background, while the real story is being told in front of you with the zombies being used as just a backdrop.
Yeah.
I mean, it's awesome to think that the guy who really reinvented the genre, because before this film you had the Haitian voodoo zombies, the Haitian voodoo zombies of mind controlled, not really dead, but dead, not flesh eating, but just, violent brutes doing the bidding of their masters. In this film you got to see this mindless hordes of flesh eating dead. And it changed the way that people look at the zombie genre. And up until, I don't think anything else was more influential until maybe Return of the Living Dead, which was not a very good film, but it gave somebody the impression that all zombies go for brains. When that is the only film in which, at the time, zombies went for brains. Everything else was just human flesh.
Right.
But if you think about the fact that the guy who recreated the genre of the zombie film barely really focused on zombies versus everything that came after it, the entire focus is on the zombies. Even in The Walking Dead, it's run from the zombies, run from the zombies. Little bits of human here.
But it's a lot more of the human now. I mean, but when it first started off, you end up in the same situation where you see the same trope. If you go into night, what was the catalyst for these zombies even getting up?
Space dust.
Nothing ever has gone even further about that.
Nope.
What, 5 more movies, and
Yeah.
we still only get this all start.
Hold on. Let me count this, because you have Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Living Dead, Day of the Living Dead, Land of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, Survival of the Dead.
Missed that one.
And then there's one more that came out after Survival.
So
a total of 6 movies afterwards. 7 movies total, 6 movies after this one. Nothing else has been explained except for space dust.
Space dust. And you still see that same trope, same thing happening in Fear, Walking Dead. It's a zombie trope. Explaining it destroys it. Kind of like the whole thing of...
you mean like they did Return with the radioactive
yeah, the radioactive thing.
Well, they kind of did that at the beginning of... what's that stupid movie that we wrote before it came out?
Which one?
The one that... Well, I did a version of it, you did a version of it, and then Hollywood did a version of it. The rules to surviving a zombie apocalypse. But it's...
What, Zombieland?
Zombieland, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he explains in the very first scene, mad cow disease became mad human disease. One bad burger. I mean, that's also recycled straight from another one I was talking about earlier, 28 Days. Mm-hmm. The whole mad cow thing. Which technically that wasn't a bad burger. That was a monkey spitting in somebody's face.
But still.
And causing, and the cool thing, see, let's pause. Let's get on the 28 Days Later moment.
Okay.
28 Days Later is not a zombie film. It's a rabies film.
100%.
But
the same thing happened in Doomsday.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
I do.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that one hurts you, doesn't it?
It does. But the rabies film is completely different than the zombie film. Yes, they are blinded by their own rage,
right.
But they are not completely. They're not dead.
No,
they're just infected. They die. They starve to death because they don't eat. They don't think about eating. They just think about killing and sleeping.
Right.
Killing and sleeping. That's it. Which is a cool concept.
It's a cool concept to take from what the baseline is from
the zombie
genre. Because after a certain point, how many different ways are you going to do this? Radioactivity, space dust.
Yeah. And then mad cow disease. And then mad monkey disease. And... I mean, it was cool to see that they could survive it, but we're not talking about 20 days.
But the reason why I'm bringing that up is to just show how far one movie
can take an entire genre. No, it changed everything. I mean, beforehand, the biggest zombie film before that was White Zombie.
Right.
And then, I mean, that was Bela Lugosi, one of Bela Lugosi's films, and he was just a mindless puppet.
That's the whole thing.
No flesh eating, just...
But then you had this in 1968, which changed things. And then if you follow through... all those movies that he touched, again, push our genre forward. I'll even accept Blue Zombies in Day.
That was such a bad choice.
Now,
although I did really dig the progression of the zombie in Day of the Living Dead. But I mean, we're not talking about Day. We're talking about Night here.
We're talking about Night, but I'm going to bring up a couple of things about Night for you real quick because I have some questions for you. As this, I know, is one of it's in your top. It's definitely.
Oh yeah, it's number 3.
Okay. We have to bring up it because we always talk about this. This movie has been remade 2 more times.
Oh yeah,
it was colorized, digitalized, and then
put in 3D.
Yeah,
yeah.
So the people love this movie.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I know that they're actually showing it in theaters too right now.
Yep. So it is.
It's just one of those things of if you haven't seen it, it's one of those things of it has to be on the list of your horror movies. And I still think it's such a classic that colorizing it, I really, it loses it. It loses its ability to be exactly what it was. I watched a colored version of it and I laughed even more. The black and white is what resonates perfectly with me. And I don't think that movie could have been done in anything but black and white.
Do you know how they did the blood in this film?
This is another chocolate syrup situation.
It is.
Yeah.
Bosco chocolate syrup.
Oh, you know the name brand.
Yep.
Bosco chocolate syrup for all your zombie needs. So, what do you think about the other remakes? I mean, they also did one more currently, and even though they went through and almost shot the second remake of it, was almost a shot for shot.
I don't care for the remakes.
Is it just for your hated remakes?
It's honestly just this was so good you didn't need to. I don't mind them putting Technicolor into it, like painting it.
That was bad,
man. It looks terrible because it was never filmed to be that, but I can accept it for people that can't stand black and white films. You can still look at this and tell by how it's Technicolored. It's a classic. Recasting the cast and shooting a different film is there's something special about the overtop acting that the lady who played Barbara did.
Yeah.
There's something special about Mr. Jones playing that lead role for the first time, and then recasting him just kind of cheapens it. And then don't get me started
even
on,
though it was with a grouping of people that actually are known in horror. I mean, Savini directed the 1990 version of it?
Yep, 1991.
No, it was 90.
No, was it 90?
It was actually 90.
But then you have the 2003 starring Sid, whatever his name is.
Yeah, see,
Captain Spaulding, and that's
I don't
that's
use
3D.
I don't even mess with that.
No. That one's in 3D, and that one was garbage. The only remake that happened in the early 2000s, as far as the Romero series that stands in my mind, and I can even count it as some canon in the Night or the Of the Dead series, is the Dawn of the Living Dead.
Oh, that one was a good one.
That was phenomenal. That remake in 2004, and if every remake could be that,
I think things would be seen differently.
yeah.
But as far as the concept of Night of the Living Dead has gone through 3 different, not even directions. They kept the story almost identical. So, to me, seeing an homage like that means that whatever your story was,
It was great.
it was great. When people go through and remake the exact same movie you did, not changing, especially 1991, wasn't changed much at all. It was just modern horror retelling. And I think it's one of the greatest things to actually say that this is a remake that I can respect this one. Are they my favorites? No.
No,
But
there's nothing bad about the 19. Like really, like I said, it just cheapens the. It's a groundbreaking film that doesn't need to be cheapened by recasting and retelling, and that's my issue with it. It's on top of being the first film you ever see that amount of gore, and having it come back to, have the first lead black actor.
Yes.
I mean, the first mixed race. That was the first lead black actor. It may have actually been the first lead black actor
in horror.
In horror.
Yeah.
I'm not. We'll have to look into that. But
first lead in horror is that's the claim to fame on that one.
And it's also the first mixed race couple on film
in horror.
In horror.
In horror.
So, but having these iconic things for this film, why cheapen it by recasting it? It's the same issue I have with anytime they bring up recasting The Crow. It's a Brandon Lee, like it's iconic. Brandon Lee died in it, right? So you're really disrespecting him by redoing it.
Well, it's not going to happen, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. Jason Momoa said no, so
I know
that should keep you happy. Any other thoughts on Night? I mean, I know it's in your top. The directing was what it was for its time period. I'm not going to sit there and
he did a good job. I mean, nobody in 1968 was blowing me out of the water. All the classic films, they have a very simple style. It's not like they had a ton of options for special effects.
No, they
had a camera and a crew, and they told people how to act. It's literally a stage
and they
performance.
Called up friends and family to be zombies.
Yeah, this is. I can't believe it. It's got a Metacritic score of 88.
Yeah,
I feel like it should be in the 90s. I mean, Metacritic's kind of harsh.
The one that got me when doing the research for this one. I've never even seen this before. Rotten Tomatoes score was at 97%. Mm-hmm. That makes it a classic.
Yeah,
it's
one of those things that I think even film heads are afraid to really criticize too much because it's such an iconic film. And maybe that's my problem. Maybe if I was a different individual who had different tastes in films, I could look at this and maybe find something to truly bash.
I can. See, that's which is really odd because as the cynic, I expected you to go, well, there was some, but I'm watched it a second time just to make sure I got all of my stuff right. The editing in this movie was rough. The sound design was rough.
It's 1968, and it's done on $114,000.
And if you had to honestly score it as a critic, what would you give this film?
Don't make me do that.
No, that's the whole point, man.
All right, so based off of, I have to give a scale.
A scale is this?
I have to give it a sliding scale because of the time frame and the technology it was out.
All right, go ahead.
So for visual effects, for editing, for sound, those are going to take away
and acting
some points. Barbara's acting is going to take away some points.
If you still come up with a 5 at the end of this, I'm going to hurt you.
No, realistically, it's a 3.5. If you take away, even with the technology available, there were movies that were done better at the time. I have to factor in budget when I factor this in, which is why it got the half instead of the 3.
Okay.
That's my honest critic review of it.
Your critic review.
My personal fanboy. It's a 5 out of it's a 15 out of 10.
You're just gonna jump the scale even higher than it really is. For me, you being as a critic, as much as I hate doing it, it hurts the soul because this is still one of my favorite movies.
It does.
But I give it a 3. There were some things it was done better in other movies, but because it is of its genre and it's the first of it, I'll agree with your 3.5 because I love this film. But if I was to do this as a 100% critic, never seen this movie before, popped it in and went, what is this?
What's all the fuss about?
Yeah, but for what it is, as a critic, I give it a 3. But our grand total score, our real pundit score,
3.5.
No, for the love. We give
for the love, yeah.
We give
for
it
the love. It's a 5.
All right. You want to say 5 out of 5?
It's a 5 out of 5 for the love.
So that's the only movie so far that we've ever talked about that we can agree.
It's a 5 out of 5.
It's a 5 out of 5
for the love.
For the love.
There's other movies out there that'll be a 5 out of 5. Alex puts on his critic eyes for. I'm going to make Alex put on his critic eyes and watch the Pulp Fiction, and you'll still come up with a 5 out of 5.
Actually, there's some things about that movie I honestly can sit there and talk smack about.
Okay, fine. Jackie Brown.
Oh, I can already give that a low score.
Oh yeah. Fair enough. He's going to do the critic thing.
I'm doing my critic thing. Hey, but that's pretty much it. Happy birthday! It's 50 years. I mean, this movie's still holding its weight.
Still holding up, yeah.
Into this time period,
and it's turning people into fans of classic horror. Every time I've ever shown anybody this film, who
just continues
watched
people
modern stuff, they're like, "Oh my god, this was fantastic."
Yeah, it's there's love there. I mean, I think that's one of those handful of movies you go, that was made with love, and it was tucked in very nicely.
Oh yeah,
and sprinkled some fairy dust on it or space dust.
Yeah, it was sprinkled with space dust. Created some zombies, eating some flesh, and it was phenomenal.
Well, it's another one. We knocked it out. We talked about it. It's our first 5 for 5 scoring. Where can people find us, man?
Well, you can find us on YouTube at, what's the channel name?
It's The Real Pundits.
Oh, The Real Pundits on YouTube. How creative.
Very, very creative. I try to really expand myself to put that one on there.
You can find us on Twitter at Brand Real Pundit for me and at ANA Real Pundit for Alex. And you can contact us on the mailbag at therealpundits.com. Now, we would like you to mail in your questions, concerns, hate mail, please. Anything which we can respond to, talk crap, I don't care. Just
we'll bring it up on.
I'll bring it up on the podcast. It'll be fantastic. Also, find us on Podbean.
Yeah.
If you listen to us on Apple iTunes, go ahead and give us a rating and a review. Please.
Yeah, even if it's 1 star, I'll accept it.
I'll take it. You want to tell us we're the worst podcast in history and poop all over us? That's fine. Just communicate with us. Let us know how we're doing.
Communication for poop? You really are pushing this thing for horror nights. I mean, this is
really
getting into
a mood on horror. But yeah, so you can find us there. You can find us on Facebook, the Real Pundits, or you can join us in our Facebook group, the Real Pundits Film Talk, and there are some subjects that are going to be brought up on that we will be discussing on future podcasts.
Yes, we will.
So at this moment, what are we going to talk about next week?
We aren't. We're not going to talk. We're going to enjoy.
What are we enjoying next week?
Well, we have to prep up for Halloween now, don't we?
In fact, you're right. I think we should do a review.
Oh, it's not a we should.
We're going to do a review of Halloween.
Now, let's make sure we let our fans know.
Not the Rob Zombie Halloween.
No, we ain't talking about that garbage.
Not Halloween 2. Not Halloween 3.
I want to make you watch Halloween 3.
Nope. Okay, we'll find a reason for you to bet me, and that'll be my punishment.
Okay, I'll find that. But no, we're going to watch Halloween because we're not going to be doing anything. This is the season. We're finally getting close to it. The reviews are already out there, so don't watch them. And let's start from the start, and then we get to the end of it. That's it. Because after we get done watching Halloween, we're going to go watch Lori do her thing. It's going to be awesome.
Yep. Okay. On that note.
Good
night, folks.
Good night. Bye.